From the comforting smells to the delicious taste, baking has captured the hearts of people worldwide. This ancient art has become a cultural phenomenon. You're listening to TALRadio, powered by Touch of Life Foundation, and this is Foodology. I'm radio host Devansh, and on this show, I talk about the enormous world of a little word called food. Baking has been known to be therapeutic and relaxing. The process of measuring, mixing, and baking can be calming and soothing, providing an escape from the stresses of daily lives. Baking allows you to be creative and provides a sense of accomplishment, which can help to boost your mood and self-esteem. Baking has rich history and tradition, and many people have fond memories of baking with their grandparents, parents, or siblings. It can evoke a sense of nostalgia, taking you back to the happy memories and simpler times. It can also provide an opportunity to pass on family recipes and traditions, creating a sense of connection and community. Baking can also be a social activity, providing opportunity to connect and share with others. Baking with friends or family can create a sense of togetherness, while sharing your creations with others can bring you joy and satisfaction. It can also be a way to give back to the community by baking for a bake sale or a charity event. At the end of the day, one of the main reasons baking has become so popular is simply because it's delicious and satisfying. The smell of freshly baked bread, the sight of a perfectly decorated cake, and the taste of warm chocolate chip cookies can bring joy and happiness to anyone. Baking allows you to create something from scratch and indulge in the fruits of your labor. Today, we will delve into the history of baking, tracing its roots from ancient times to the present day, and discover the science behind this wonderful art. Baking is one of the oldest food preparation techniques in human history, and its evolution over time has been shaped by cultural, technological, and economic factors. From ancient civilizations to present day, baking has played a significant role in human diets and social customs. The Babylonians introduced the concept of sourdough bread, where wild yeast was used to ferment the dough, giving it a distinct sour taste. This method is still used today in artisanal bread making. The earliest evidences of baking dates back to the ancient civilizations of Egyptians and the Babylonians, as I've mentioned. These cultures used clay ovens to bake bread, which was a staple food in their diets. As these civilizations developed, so did their baking techniques. The Greeks and Romans introduced the use of enclosed ovens and added honey and spices to their bread for flavor. In medieval Europe, bread became a symbol of social status, with the wealthy consuming finely milled white bread, while the lower class ate coarser bread made from rye or barley. During the Renaissance, baking became more sophisticated. With the invention of pastry making, sweet pastries filled with fruits and nuts were created, as were savory pastries filled with meats and cheeses. Pastry chefs were highly valued, and elaborate pastries were created for banquets and feasts. The Industrial Revolution brought mechanization to baking with the invention of the steam oven, allowing for mass production of bread. This led to the rise of bakeries and the proliferation of bread as a staple food. In the 19th and the 20th centuries, baking became more accessible to the general population with the invention of baking powder, which replaced the need for yeast in some recipes. The rise of home baking also led to the creation of baking cookbooks. During World War II, baking took on a new significance as it was used as a means of boosting morale and supporting the war effort. Women were encouraged to bake goods to send to soldiers overseas. And rationing led to the development of new recipes that used limited ingredients. Today, baking remains as an important part of many cultures and traditions. In the United States, Thanksgiving is a holiday where families gather to share a meal that often includes pies and other baked goods. In Europe, the Christmas season is associated with baking of cookies, cakes, and other festive treats. In the recent years, there has been a renewed interest in artisanal baking, with a focus on using high-quality ingredients and traditional techniques. This trend has led to the rise of specialty bakeries and the popularity of television shows such as The Great British Bake Off. Baking has been an integral part of human life, providing sustenance, pleasure, and social connection. Whether you're a professional baker or a home cook, the art of baking continues to inspire and delight people around the world. Baking is both an art and a science, and understanding the chemistry of baking is essential to achieve the perfect results every time. There are many chemical reactions that occur during the baking process, and each one has a specific role in creating the final product. One of the most important aspects in baking chemistry is the interaction between heat and the ingredients. Heat causes a variety of changes in ingredients, including melting, evaporation, and chemical reactions. When baking a cake, for example, heat causes the butter to melt, the sugar to dissolve, and the eggs to coagulate, creating a stable structure for the cake. Another critical chemical reaction in baking is the reaction between acids and bases. Baking powder and baking soda are two common leavening agents used in baking that rely on this action. Baking powder is a combination of baking soda, cream of tartar, and sometimes cornstarch. It comes in two forms, single-acting and double-acting. Single-acting baking powder starts working as soon as it is mixed with a liquid, so you need to bake your goods immediately after mixing the ingredients. Double-acting baking powder, on the other hand, starts working as soon as it is mixed with a liquid, but it continues to release gas when it is heated in the oven. This makes it more versatile and forgiving than single-acting baking powder. Baking powder is often used in recipes that don't contain any acidic ingredients, like biscuits or cornbread. It provides the necessary acid and base to produce carbon dioxide gas that makes the dough or batter to rise. Baking soda, on the other hand, is a base that reacts with acidic ingredients to produce carbon dioxide gas. However, baking soda needs an acid to react with, so it is often paired with acidic ingredients like lemon juice or vinegar to activate the reaction. Baking soda is often used in recipes that contain buttermilk, yogurt, or vinegar. It is also used in recipes that contain chocolate or cocoa powder, as these ingredients are naturally acidic. One important thing to note about baking soda is that if there isn't enough acid in the recipe, the baking soda won't do its job, and your baked goods will be flat and dense. On the other hand, if you use too much baking soda, your baked goods will have a bitter and soapy taste. One classic example of using baking soda is in chocolate chip cookies. The acidic ingredients in this recipe are brown sugar and chocolate chips. The baking soda reacts with the acid in brown sugar and chocolate chips, producing carbon dioxide gas. That causes the cookies to rise and become somewhat fluffy and chewy-ish. Another example of using baking soda is in pancakes. Buttermilk is the acidic ingredient here, and it reacts with baking soda to produce carbon dioxide gas, and hence the pancakes rise. The Maillard reaction is another important chemical reaction in baking. This reaction occurs between amino acids and reducing sugars, like glucose or fructose. when they are exposed to heat. In simple words, the Maillard's reaction is responsible for the browning of bread crusts, cakes, cookies, croissants, and whatnot. There are a lot of complex reactions that occur during the presence of heat. Due to the Maillard's reaction, the compounds create their characteristic flavors and aromas. This reaction occurs in 3 stages. The first stage is the formation of reactive intermediates. The second stage is that these intermediates undergo a series of chemical reactions that lead to the formation of new compounds. These compounds are responsible for the rich, complex flavors and aromas of baked goods. The third stage is the caramelization of the products, which gives the baked goods their characteristic brown color. Emulsification is another important aspect of baking chemistry. Emulsifiers such as egg yolk or lecithin, they help to create stable emulsions by mixing 2 immiscible liquids which do not naturally mix with each other. This reaction is essential for creating smooth and creamy textures in baked goods and pastries. Emulsification occurs when these emulsifiers surround tiny droplets of one liquid and keep them suspended in the other liquid. For example, in a cake recipe, the egg yolk acts as emulsifiers, mixing the oil and water in the batter to create a smooth and creamy texture. Without emulsifiers, the oil and water would naturally separate, resulting in a dry and a very crumbly cake. In addition to giving a smooth texture, emulsifiers also help to extend the shelf life of baked goods. Finally, enzymes play a critical role in baking chemistry. Enzymes are the proteins that catalyze the chemical reactions. They can be found in ingredients like flour, milk, and eggs. Alright, I guess that's enough science for today. Let's go on a little lighter and fun note. Let's explore some of the most common mistakes that you might be doing while baking, and I'll be giving tips on how to avoid them. One of the most common mistakes that a beginner makes is not preheating the oven. Preheating is so crucial because it ensures that your baked goods cook evenly and at the right temperature. Another common mistake is overmixing the batter. Overmixing can result in a tough and dense baked good. When you overmix, you develop gluten in the flour, which can make your baked goods chewy. You should mix the ingredients until they are just combined and avoid overmixing at all costs. And as we all know that accurate measurements are crucial in baking. Even a small difference in the amount of ingredients can affect the texture, flavor, and the overall outcome of your product. A lot of people open the oven door too often. This can cause your baked goods to cook unevenly. Every time you open the oven door, you release heat, which can affect the temperature inside the oven. You should resist this temptation to peek inside the oven and only open the door when necessary. Letting your baked goods cool completely before slicing or serving is important to ensure that they set properly. Baked goods continue to cook and set even after you take them out of the oven, so give them the time to cool down before you slice them. Baking is a fun and a rewarding hobby, but it can be frustrating when things do not turn out as expected. Avoiding common baking mistakes and following tips and tricks can make a big difference in the outcome. Always opt for fresh, quality ingredients and use them at their best. Cheap ingredients may contain additives, preservatives, or fillers that could affect the texture, flavor, and the overall quality of the product. You should always remember that not all flours are created equal, and using the wrong type of flour can significantly affect the outcome of your baked goods. For example, cake flour has lower protein content, which makes it ideal for delicate baked goods like cakes and pastries. Bread flour, on the other hand, has a higher protein content, which makes it better for breads. Using parchment paper or a silicone baking mat on your baking sheet can help to prevent the products sticking and make the cleanup a breeze. You must use different types of sugar in your baking. This can add depth of flavor, texture, and color. For example, brown sugar adds a caramel flavor and moistness to the cakes, while granulated sugar provides structure and sweetness. But remember that one type of sugar is not replaceable for another type. Always follow the recipe thoroughly. And there you have it. Some common mistakes that people make and some little known tips and tricks for baking that can take your baked goods to the next level. By following the recipe well and using these important tips, you will be well on your way to becoming a baking pro. Thank you so much for sticking around with me on this episode of Foodology. I had an incredible time talking to you. This is radio host Devansh signing off. Hope you have a beautiful and a magical day ahead. See you soon.